Welcome into another edition of Mix in a Water Monday, everybody. We have a very special guest today, South Carolina's all-time scoring leader, Parker White. Parker, always good to talk with you, bud. Let's get right into it. South Carolina coming off 2 wins. I know you've been in situations like that, the highs and lows through your what felt like your 20-year career at South Carolina. I know there's going to be a lot of people on the outside. They'll be like, all right, well, they should beat Charlotte. They should be South Carolina State. And you know what? They're probably right. But just as a player, from a mental standpoint, how big can being able to get some momentum like this be for South Carolina before they take on Kentucky later this week?
Oh, yeah. It's certainly huge. I mean, to me as a player, it always felt good just to win, regardless of who the team is, because the amount of preparation that you put in throughout the week is always the same, regardless of, in 2019 when we upset Georgia. Like, to me, that kind of felt very similar to, when we beat, maybe Charleston Southern or something at home, like earlier that season or whatever, because they're all college football teams. And then we put in so much work throughout the week that, a win's a win, and we'll take what we can get. And so we're always celebrating that locker room after a win. So when you can ride that positive momentum into like another big game, I think that certainly helps just to kind of get the ball rolling.
Well, it's a good time to have you on because South Carolina, for the second time this season, 2 punt blocks. I know you had the opportunity to work with several different coaches during your time at South Carolina from a special team standpoint, but having a chance to work with Pete Lembo, what's just different about him? Obviously, Shane Beamer emphasizes special teams, or else he wouldn't bring in a full-time special teams coordinator. But what just makes Coach Lembo so special? And he just, is able to get the best out of all players that play on special teams.
Yeah, so with Coach Lembo, his sort of, I think, strategy and style and how he attacks the way he coaches is that he leaves no stone unturned. So he will, spend countless hours watching film and going back years of that, special teams coordinator and tendencies that they have. So there's really no way out. Like, if you have a weakness in your special teams, he'll attack it and he'll find the way. He's a big World War II guy, big history nerd. So I think he kind of gets some of his like strategies from, kind of war strategy and attack them where they aren't or whatever it is, so that's just kind of, the way he goes at it. And that's the way he, attacks recruiting, is that he, he just puts in so much effort and so much work. And Stanton Weber does as well. He just the way that they can prepare, the team for the meetings in terms of, getting those PowerPoint slides ready and coaching on the field in terms of actually, hands-on, telling guys, exactly what techniques to apply in certain situations. They're just both so knowledgeable in special teams that I think it really rubs off on the guys, and everyone can really tell how much work they put in. And obviously it's helped us win games so far. And I think everyone sees that, and, everyone's all buying into winning. So it's a no-brainer to play hard on teams.
And it's a no-brainer that if South Carolina wants to win this week, they're going to have to execute in all 3 phases. Offense has been able to get things going, averaging over 240 yards rushing their last 2 games. The plus-minus in terms of the turnover battle, much better in comparison to what it was at the start of the year. -7 for the first 2 games. Now it's +1 over the last 2. I say all that because in a game like this against Kentucky, if South Carolina wants to win, they have to play nearly flawless in special teams as well. For you, seeing what a guy like Mitch Jeter, let's bring up Mitch first, a guy that, look, he was competing for the starting spot, and now he's been able to get that opportunity. He's done a nice little job with it. What have you just noticed with him and just how he's handled situations like that? Because going into Kentucky this weekend, if his number's called and there's a big opportunity on the line, could make or break the game, he's going to be thrown in there. And, I'm sure you're very proud to just see how he's grown so far this season and grown just in his career as well.
Yeah, he's certainly kicking with a lot of confidence, and it's, showing out on the field, and he's put a ton of work in. So it's really been awesome to see that kind of pay off for him. He came in, a few years ago. I think this is already him and Kai's 3rd season. So, time really does fly by. So that's kind of crazy to think about. But like I said, they've been to all these, they've both been to Kroger Field before. And so, they'll be, comfortable in that kind of situation because, they've seen it before. It's not going to be like, some crazy thing that, that someplace they haven't been, like Arkansas for them, may have been, eye-opening because they hadn't been there before. But I think they'll be comfortable this weekend, and I think that will allow them to come in and do their jobs really well. And Kentucky's always been another team that's just been really great on special teams. So I know they're going to give us our run for our money, but our best is just going to have to be better than their best if we want to win.
And I'm trying to remember here. I mean, I should have done a better job before we hopped on, but I think this will be the first time in quite some time that South Carolina is heading to Kentucky after COVID situation, right? I mean, you think about it 2 years ago when you guys went to Kentucky. I mean, there was no one in the stands practically, or, it was limited is what I'm trying to get at. But when that stadium is full, what is it like in Lexington? And what would you tell some of these younger players who have never experienced it? I mean, a guy even like Luke Doty, this will be their first time going into a stadium where, in Kentucky, that is, where there's going to be a lot of fans. They're not used to seeing that there.
Yeah, they're certainly hostile. The sideline is too crazy big, so the fans are pretty close to the bench, so they're pretty rowdy, and they're gonna be loud, and it's a night game, so that kind of factors into with maybe a little bit of maybe a few too many people not mixing in waters at the tailgates before. So yeah, they're gonna bring their best. So it'll be a pretty crazy environment. I've been up there twice, and both times at night, both times we got whooped up on. So yeah, something's going to have to change, and we're going to have to that it's going to be good for those guys to hopefully be riding off of the coattails of 2 wins and be confident going into that game. I think that'll be really good for the team.
I mentioned earlier how South Carolina has had a lot of success on the ground. 295 yards against Charlotte this past game, just under 200 yards, and in large part because of the way Marshawn Lloyd has played. And I know that's a guy that you've had the chance to be able to see when he was a freshman who unfortunately suffered an ACL injury just a couple days into practice, to be able to see his journey. And I know it's from afar now this season, now that your career at South Carolina is done, but to see his beginning stages of going through that, coming back from rehab, and now to go out there, seeing what he did 2 weeks ago against Charlotte, hurdling guys, and then obviously continuing to have success this past weekend against South Carolina State. What can you tell us about just his journey as someone that was his teammate for 2 years?
Yeah, so Marshawn's one of the he's got a very rare work ethic. I mean, he'll always, kind of like with Coach Lembo, he leaves no stone unturned. I've kind of watched how him, and I think Luke Doty is one of those guys too, how they, when I was out there kicking over like a lot of the summertime and stuff like that, like even this year and the year before, they're always, after workouts, getting extra work, him running routes at the backfield and stuff. And so them two always were, working together. And I think they roomed together too. So I think Luke being a super hard worker, and so is Marshawn, they've kind of iron sharpen iron with that. And they've, both have just put in, a ton of work at their craft. And to Marshawn specifically with his injury, in fall camp in 2020, we were all kind of expecting. We saw the way he was running that camp, and frankly, we kind of thought that was the year Kevin, had like a crazy year. Like we kind of thought that Kevin was going to be second fiddle that season to Marshawn, and that maybe Kevin would have maybe 200-300 yards, Marshawn would maybe go for 700-800, whatever it was. And Marshawn I was like, dang, I haven't seen a guy this explosive since I've been here. And then coming off the knee injury, that's always tough. And he's starting to, I think get his confidence back and stuff with the knee thing. And you could see that against Charlotte, the way he was running and stuff. And so he's just got to, just continue to keep working and stuff, because it's always tough to come off that ACL, because I know that's a very frequent injury that happens to a lot of football players, and it's tough to come back from. But Marshawn's proven so far that he has the resiliency to do that.
Is there anything else that stood out to you in that win against South Carolina State, Parker? Because I know for you, you've had a unique experience being able to watch it up close for the last couple of years. And sometimes you see things where people are going to be like, well, he's a punter. Well, there's a lot of things that you see that people in the stands, people on the couch back home, press box, wherever, we don't see the same way. Is there anything that you've been able to see?
I mean, thinking back to it, I think it was really good how the guys were able to handle that type of situation with their, there was a lot of outside distractions that week. I mean, there was a hurricane coming that guys were worried about. It was windy that game. So there was just a whole lot of different little factors. Playing on a Thursday for the first time in probably like 7-8 seasons or whatever. Like I had never played on a Thursday, so having a short week and the team didn't find out till Tuesday morning. So just mentally knowing that you have to that you don't have a lot of time to prepare for the game, and coming off of a week before where you're only getting a couple days rest. I mean, it'd be like us playing on a Thursday. It's like if the NFL had Wednesday night football or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's very it's just very brief, or whatever. It's just like only a couple. I guess it'd be Friday, but either way, it's only a couple days, and so that's just a tough situation to go into. And I was really proud with how the team finished the game, because it's been obvious anyone watching that we haven't had the best starts, especially like in the first quarter of games. So I think it's good that they finished strong and stuff in the second half, but kind of to your credit, something we need to work on, especially, and it needs to start this week against Kentucky, is just starting off fast. And even last year, like we need to have a strong first quarter and let Kentucky know that we're ready to play, because our starts to the games this season haven't been the best. So we need to come out the gates kind of racing.
Well, and that leads me to my last question for you. Going back to last year, and I know last year is last year, but it seemed like you guys had some of your best performances, at least from an offensive standpoint, when there was extra time, right? You think about the first game of the season. You think about coming off the bye week after losing to Texas A&M when you guys played Florida. And then, of course, the Duke's Mayo Bowl, having a couple weeks to get ready for that game. I know it's not a full week, but being able to just have 2 additional days, how do you think players are going to use that extra time, and how this team's going to attack being able to have some extra time to prepare for Kentucky?
Yeah, so I mean, I think it'll be good for both players and coaches to watch additional film, of our next opponent. And I mean, because I don't think that can ever hurt, of getting too ready in terms of watching film and understanding your assignment, before the actual practice day starts. So I'm sure the guys have already seen a lot of clips and stuff with Kentucky, which has been good. And it being Sunday right now, so they still have 6 days to the game, and they're getting familiar with who the guy across from them and kind of their tendencies and all. And so that'll help. And then obviously from a actual like physical standpoint, getting back in the training room and stuff will be good for an extra day or 2 and stuff for the guys that are maybe a little banged up, because we've been playing some true freshman DBs, and we've been playing a lot of freshmen all over the place. And so I think it'll be good for some of those older guys like Darius Rush and RJ, Cam Smith, especially in the DB room, for some of those guys to get back to 100% and get ready to attack this week.
Just a reminder, you guys can catch GC Live Talking Tuesday nights tomorrow night at 7. Parker, appreciate you taking the time to join us on Mixing a Water Monday.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.